There's a reason Dostoevsky wrote like a man crawling out of hell. He didn't study temptation from a distance. He lived inside it. He understood that the real battlefield of a man's life is not in the streets, the office, or the marketplace. It's in the quiet rooms where no one is watching, where the only enemy capable of destroying you is the one whispering inside your ribs. When Dostoevsky wrote about sin, indulgence, and collapse, he wasn't moralizing. He was documenting what happens to a man when he lets his cravings become his compass. And if you read him closely, you'll see a terrifying pattern. The men who fall the hardest never fall in public first. They fall in secret. They fall in the shadows. They fall in their desires. Temptation is where a man begins to rot, and lust is the first crack in his armor. Dostoevsky believed every man carries two selves inside him. The higher self that hungers for mission, meaning, order, and the lower self that wants to surrender to pleasure, chaos, and escape. The tragedy is that most men think they are choosing freely, when in reality, they are being pulled like puppets by impulses they refuse to understand. This is why lust is so dangerous. It masquerades as a harmless craving, a moment of pleasure, a distraction you think you can control. But Dostoevsky knew better. He knew lust was a mirror, and the reflection it reveals is merciless. Lust exposes the coward inner man, the part of him that trembles at discipline, avoids responsibility, and bows to whatever gives him immediate relief. It reduces a man from commander to captive, and the moment a man allows his instincts to rule him, he begins the quiet journey towards spiritual paralysis. Look at Dostoevsky's characters, Raskolnikov, Dmitri Karamazov, Stavrogin, men who were brilliant, capable, ambitious, even heroic in potential. Yet each one fell because he couldn't master the storms inside his own body. Raskolnikov drowned in guilt and delirium because he sought power without discipline. Dmitri was undone not by his circumstances, but by the whirlpool of lust and impulse he never learned to tame. Stavrogin was a man with the strength of 10 men, but without the restraint of even one. Dostoevsky is teaching us something uncomfortable. Temptation doesn't destroy you. Your obedience to it does. And the more you obey lust, the more you fear the consequences of living without it. You become fragile, dependent, soft. This is where cowardice begins. Not on the battlefield, not in a confrontation with another man, but in the private negotiations where you choose pleasure over purpose. Lust convinces you that strength can wait, discipline can wait, mission can wait, that the only thing that matters is the craving vibrating in your bloodstream right now. Every time you give in, your courage erodes. You hesitate more. You avoid responsibility more. You look for shortcuts instead of sacrifice. And before you even realize it, you've become the kind of man who flinches at pressure, hides from accountability, and betrays his own potential to stay comfortable. You become the kind of man who knows exactly what he should do, and then invents 1,000 reasons not to. Dostoevsky understood that pleasure is a weapon. Once it owns you, it rewires your instincts. You start making decisions based on what feels good, not what moves you forward. You stop confronting the hard truths inside you and begin constructing excuses to avoid them. Lust drains a man not just sexually, but spiritually. It kills his aggression, his clarity, his momentum. It teaches him to fear discomfort. It conditions him to live on his knees. And the man who fears discomfort will fear purpose, because purpose demands sacrifice. Purpose demands delayed gratification. Purpose demands that you stand tall even when your whole body is shaking. Lust instead teaches you to live like a fugitive running from his own reflection. The modern man thinks cowardice is loud, panic, surrender, giving up. But Dostoevsky reveals the darker truth. Cowardice begins silently, in the soul. It begins the moment a man stops respecting himself, the moment he can't even trust his own word, the moment he catches himself slipping and shrugs it off like it's nothing. Every secret indulgence becomes a negotiation with weakness. Every surrender becomes a seed of shame, and that shame becomes a leash. A man full of shame hesitates. A man who hesitates collapses. Lust is not just a sin, it is a strategy. Its purpose is to soften you until you cannot fight back. But here's the worst part. Dostoevsky shows that once a man starts hiding from his own desires, he begins hiding from everything else. He hides from the truth. He hides from discipline. He hides from the future he claims he wants. Lust turns men into liars, not because they want to deceive others, but because they are already deceiving themselves. They pretend they are in control. They pretend they could stop any time. Becoming Indeceptor is the code they never wanted you to learn. A psychological war map for men, forbidden teachings fused with modern strategy for influence, dominance, and self-mastery. If you want peace, prepare for war. A man doesn't overcome lust by pretending he's above it. He overcomes it by walking straight into the fire and refusing to bow. Dostoevsky understood that the only path out of temptation is through it, through the uncomfortable confrontation with the cravings that have dictated your life for far too long. You don't rise by ignoring your impulses. You rise by dominating them. You rise by declaring, "I will not be ruled by what I hunger for." Men today are taught to flee from discomfort, to soothe every ache, to feed every desire. But Dostoevsky recognized a deeper law. Strength is born from suffering, not escape. And the man who voluntarily embraces the hard path slowly becomes a creature temptation can no longer seduce. To transcend lust, a man must first understand its purpose. Lust was never meant to be your master. It was meant to be your fire. Its raw energy, primal voltage, the oldest force inside your biology. When you bow to it, it corrodes you. When you command it, it builds you. That's the mistake weak men make. They think discipline is about suppression. It's not. Discipline is about direction. The same energy that once scattered your mind and softened your spine can be weaponized, turned into ambition, focus, aggression, clarity, mission. The man who learns to transmute lust becomes more powerful than the man who tries to extinguish it. You don't kill the instinct, you turn it into fuel. But doing that requires the construction of what Dostoevsky hinted at throughout his works: the inner citadel, a fortress within the mind where your values sit like armored guardians and your discipline stands watch over your weaknesses. This citadel isn't built in a day, it's built brick by brick, decision by decision. Every time you choose purpose over pleasure, you lay a stone. Every time you deny an impulse that once controlled you, you reinforce a wall. Every moment you sit with discomfort instead of running from it, you fortify the gate. Eventually, you become the kind of man who is not easily moved, not easily tempted, not easily disarmed. You become a man with structure, a rare structure, one that stands firm even under pressure. See, lust conquers weak men because their lives lack any greater mission. They are empty castles with open doors. Temptation walks in freely because nothing inside demands protection. A man without purpose is easy prey. But once a man establishes a mission, a direction for his life that requires focus, sacrifice, and consistency, temptation becomes a background noise he doesn't have time to entertain. The man with purpose doesn't resist lust because he's pure. He resists it because he's busy building an empire. He's fully occupied, mentally, spiritually, physically. Lust cannot overtake a man whose spirit is already claimed. This is why courage returns when lust dies. Your power stops leaking. Your attention sharpens. Your voice gains gravity. You move through the world differently because you're no longer being pulled by invisible strings. You're the one holding the reins. When you reject indulgence, your body remembers how to obey your mind. When you delay gratification, your instincts learn discipline. When you conquer lust, you reclaim your sovereignty. And with sovereignty comes an aura that other men feel and women notice instantly. It's the energy of someone who is not distracted, not desperate, not moved by momentary sensation. It's the energy of a man who owns himself. And this is where transmutation becomes your superpower. Dostoevsky, without using the modern words, understood the principle. Take the very thing that once weakened you and transform it into the engine of your greatness. Lust becomes drive. Desire becomes intensity. Craving becomes creativity. Impulse becomes strategic aggression. You take the fire that once burned your discipline and convert it into the heat that forges your ambition. This is what separates the ordinary man from the dangerous one, not the absence of desire, but the mastery of it. Once you begin this transformation, something profound happens. The higher self returns. The version of you that existed before shame, addiction, distraction, and weakness layered over your potential. The version of you that saw clearly, moved decisively, walked with purpose. When you stop letting lust scatter your strength, the fog lifts, the hesitation dies, the shame dissolves. You begin to trust your own word again. You begin to feel powerful again. You begin to look at yourself the way warriors once looked at their armor, not with vanity, but with certainty. Here lies the truth Dostoevsky wanted every man to wake up to. You were not born to be ruled by desire. You were born to rule it. You were not born to retreat from temptation. You were born to walk through it with your spine straight and your soul awake. Cowardice dies when self-mastery begins. Thus remember, we are Interceptor. The Interceptor archive is the complete vault. Every lesson, every revelation, every psychological blueprint I've ever recorded, handcrafted to help you break chains, build discipline, and become undefeatable in a world built to deceive men. No ads, no algorithms, no distractions.